over a year ago now, I approached Bishop Johnson with an idea to deal with the question of basically the conversation on race. This was before Ferguson and before all the other things happened across the country. My motivation was perhaps naive on my part. I don't naive in quotations. We live in such a lovely community. We live in a community that's beautiful on many levels, and I personally have such wonderful relationships with people all over the community that I wanted to acknowledge that in terms of TACL, the Talbot Association of Clergy and Laity. So I said to the bishop, let's do something that brings the entire community together for initially a social event, dinner and a concert or whatever. The bishop acknowledged the idea, brought it to TACL, and what has subsequently developed, and Bishop will talk about that in a second, is a whole series of programs which we are calling the Conversation on Race. It was amazing to me to watch this develop. It has included participation from all levels and strata from our community: law enforcement, business, economics, political folk, county as well as city. And we are grateful not only for your interest, but for your support. And it continues to, and not just in Easton, by the way. We've also included Trapp, St. Michael's, and Oxford, and the response has been quite moving and gratifying.
Boy, I have to tell you, it took us a long time for us to figure out what a conversation on race was. You know, after the Zimmerman verdict, the president came into the press room and he asked the question, is it time that this country should have a conversation on race? But he didn't define what it was. And I'll tell you why. The conversation, wherever it is held, is different in every place. So that it took time for the dozen or 20 of us on this planning committee, including all the folks I mentioned before, and some others whom I'll mention at the conclusion of my presentation, we had to have the conversation first among ourselves. And in so doing, that was the beginning of the conversation. The Talbot County Conversation on Race promotes understanding of racial issues and strengthens relationships so to make Talbot County a more loving and compassionate community. We do so through grassroots public activities, social and educational, through our religious congregations, civic and social organizations, utilizing forums of leaders in the justice system, the voluntary and medical services community, secondary and higher education, and the business community. Our partners include like-minded organizations committed to this mission. How are we going to do this now that we have that statement? Here's our method. We have what we're calling five concurrent tiers for the conversation on race. The first of these tiers, in fact, Rabbi Peter is in charge of the first of these tiers, community special events, a community march in the park, an African-American Seder, just as Jews have their Seder celebrating their delivery out of the bondage of slavery, inspirational speakers, a winter rap event looking to spring, concluding with a band, singing, dancing. These are planned in conjunction with our congregational partners and with NAACP and the Frederick Douglass Honor Society. That's the first tier. Those events will be sporadic. Second come the Sunday suppers. So at any rate, it was Jennifer DeShiel-Reed who at our second meeting gave us the recipe on how we go about beginning this, and that's with what we call Sunday suppers. It's not a new idea. It's something which was done in this very county half a century ago, when members of congregations, white and black, went to each other's churches on Sunday afternoons and they dined together. And it's the whole idea that in the intimacy of dining, you're able to talk about different things. You may have read in the paper that St. Michael's is offering the pilot Sunday supper under the direction of volunteers in St. Michael's who are being led by Chief Anthony Smith and by his community outreach department. Their first event is coming up this coming Saturday from 11 to 4. It's a Unity Day rally, and I hope you'll be able to attend it. That's the second tier. The third tier, community conversations. These are events in which we have different segments of the whole fabric of the community coming together to talk with the community about what they are doing, what their frustrations are, what their successes are. We've prioritized 3 of these events for this fall. The first is with the justice system and public safety. We have the cooperation of all the police departments, with the courts, and with the prosecutorial agencies. The second tier, or the second, will be with medical delivery of service. That's very important. You don't often think of that in the racial context. And then the third is with education, both secondary and higher education. We'll be having the other communities come together during winter and spring, including the county and local governments, the NPO service community, the business and service club community, the Fourth Estate, and the religious community as well. Here, the fourth tier, History Days. We have people who have stories to tell. Our retired Easton Chief of Police, Easton's first black Chief of Police, Walter Chase, attended our very first planning meeting back in December, and he told the story of what, as a black policeman, he was permitted to do, where he could police and where he could not police. And it's an amazing story to hear. Also, there are young people who have stories to tell about their anxieties, about what they're facing in the future, and about the hopes and dreams that they have for themselves. And then there are other people who have hopes and dreams for what they see for the greater community at large. And we want to be able to have this be very inclusive. That's why we're going to have these history days. And then finally, the fifth tier, which we're calling the cast party, in which the planning committee members will meet again right about the end of the year to talk about how this has gone, about how this needs to change and to be shaped in different ways. This is the first time we've ever done this, so we need to do it carefully and in measured ways, because we only have one opportunity to make a good impression upon the community.
The one thing I always say is let's not get complacent in our accomplishments, things that we've already achieved as a nation, as a community. But there's always work to do. You know, there are dynamic factors in life, and there are stagnant factors in life. Those dynamic factors are always changing. They change each and every day.
Yes.
And so we have to always be prepared as a resilient community to make sure that we can address those dynamic factors in life as they change. So I think having these conversations and being able to sit down, as you said, eating is very social, and we know that. You normally don't invite somebody to lunch that you don't really like. So normally when you invite people to lunch that you like to sit across the table and talk to, you know. So always keep that in mind when you don't get invited to lunch. But anyway, I digress. But you know, I think these 5 points that you all outlined, you're looking at different ways of getting people to communicate and to talk down and to realize that you can have your differences, you can even have your biases, you know, but we can still work together even with that. And I think the fact that we can be able to share our inner feelings with one another and talk about a very, very touchy subject in its race, and to be able to be honest with each other is an important thing. Because if we can't sit down and talk, how will we ever, number one, be able to learn the differences that we do have? What I've grown to learn is that we have a lot more in common than we do in opposition. But it's only through those conversations that we find that out.
We have been asked, to support the Midshore Riverkeeper Conservancy's grant request for signage at various waterways and landings, or I should say landings more so than anything. And the objective of this is actually to put in signs that the message could actually be changed out. So the key would be is have a wooden sign put up, and then ultimately the message within that sign could be removed and moved to another landing, and then another message rotated in. At the same time, the grant that the Midshore Riverkeepers are looking at applying to has also requested that the county add this as a public education and awareness program under our watershed implementation plan for our 2016 goals and objectives for the WIP, and ultimately just let the council know that is something that I think we had heard back that the county was a little bit lacking in the public education and awareness program, awareness area, So this would actually be something that would help us achieve a higher rating for public education and awareness. At the same time, one of the things, as I was walking in here this morning, the idea was maybe looking at presenting the overall, sign creation and, construction, maybe to the Board of Education, and possibly having that done at their St. Michael's, carpentry school. So I talked with Gail Seacrest just before the meeting to make sure that they had something like that, and they do. So that would be an opportunity for, if we could potentially partner with the Board of Ed to have them work on the signs. At the same time, I think the Midshore Riverkeepers has asked the county if we could match, develop a match, in-kind match for this grant request, i.e. Utilizing either, the roads department or the Parks and Rec department to install the signs at such time they were to receive the grant. It's also my understanding that they are looking at, I think they had a budgetary price of about $1,000 per sign. It could be, let's say, even more than that, depending upon what the materials and whatnot.
Well, that's what's sticking out at me. The cost per sign will be about $2,000. You're talking about a wooded sign with something printed on the inside. There's no way in my head that I can wrap it around $2,000 per sign for what these examples.
And in talking with Matt, I think that's actually, I think originally we were talking 2,000. I think we can probably get it down to 1,000.
To me, it still sounds crazy.
Well, I think you have the printing cost. There's a printing cost of the metal signs and whatnot. I mean, all I know is that the signs that have been done in the past with some of our other display signs have been $1,000 with the laminating and whatnot.
I can see $1,000 very quickly. You're talking about lumber, you're talking about material, sign printing.
You need to shop that sign printing. I mean, I don't print that kind of sign, but I can't for the life. There's no way that should be more than about. No, I know, but I'm just saying, I can't imagine more than a couple $100 per sign. So I think you need to.
$200?
I would say at most.
Ms. Callahan, can you make this sign for $200?
I'm talking about including the printing, but.
Alex might.
I couldn't drive by it for a couple hundred.
Well, let me ask you.
I just think to comment on that though, what the pictures we're seeing, which the public can't see, it just is like an old 4x4 setup. I think we're going to have to really do something that lasts. Maybe out of some type of, plastic or something like that.
Plexiglass in front of it.
Yeah, something that's.
Well, these have plexiglass on them.
Good.
Well, I'm talking the structure itself.
I think they're supposed to look
Well, it should be salt-treated wood, right? We salt-treated paint.
Well, a lot of times with the signs, everything twists up and you'll have a problem.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little sensitive to all that. So.
And these would be just educational signs talking about the particular landing and the species and the native grass or native.
Focus and also the focus on clean water. Let's say we have we do have a pump out at trap landing, so it might be a sign talking about pumping out your boats at a pump out station. Might be one sign, or education process. If you have trash, don't throw your trash in the water. Basically, throw it in a nearby receptacle. I think at the same time, the presentation of the overall verbiage and the signs themselves, we would come to the council and present that to you all. So that we would actually we would present that both, to all the departments that are involved, and then ultimately to the council to make sure that they're comfortable with the let's say it might be a clean, it's very similar to what we had here, which is a clean water sign talking about clean water. Maybe a sign talking about the health of the bay, talking about wetlands. So there's a laundry list of things we can talk about.
And I guess to play off the question with what's going to be on the sign, it's going to start as an informational signage talking specifically about that landing or that marina and what the opportunities are there for the public to get involved. And then it's also going to have a take-home message on what you can do as a resident and lawn fertilizers, the different messages that we've been sending out there. Pump out your boat, don't discharge into the water, and different practices that the community members could pick up while reading these signs. So they're both informational and they're also a take-home message as well.
That you work through the Parks Department in close relationship regarding sign placement and so forth. I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, the more knowledge you can give the people regarding the environment, the better. I think placement and upkeep is going to be important. And messaging to some degree, but I think if you're just talking about good environmental habits. I don't see anything wrong with it. You might do some education regarding the species of plant, blue crab, rockfish, whatever is in that particular body of water, just to let the fisher know what he may catch or may not catch. I don't see anything wrong with it. So,
There's an ongoing cost if you're going to continue to change the message. So I think you really have to work on the cost, because if you're talking about telling me a metal sign printed is over $1,000, then if you're going to be changing those out, that's just not going to be sustainable, shall we say, cost-wise. So I think some more effort needs to be put into how much does it really cost.
the first motion before council then is that are we in agreement to partner with the Midshore Riverkeepers with the Clean Water Signage Program? Motion made by Mr. Callahan, seconded by Mr. Bartlett. Any further discussion?
I mean, this is just a concept till we get final things. I mean, this is not
Correct.
committing
Yes,
us 100%.
we're going into partnership with them on the clean water signage. That's all I'm asking for today. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Pat?
Aye.
Ms. Williams? Aye. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Second matter was that you needed a letter of
support.
Letter of support.
a letter of support.
We have a draft for you.
And that letter's going to MDE,
This will be going to Chesapeake Bay Trust.
Chesapeake
And
Bay
that's
Trust for the
to-
grant funding.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we send a letter of support.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Seconded by Mrs. Price for the letter of support to Chesapeake Bay Foundation for grant money. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Pat?
Aye.
Ms. Williams? Aye. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr.
And
Callahan?
Ray-